All right, guys, here we are live for another PDOCS Livestream series, another Thursday afternoon, 2 p.m. Eastern, same time, same bad channel, as I always say. This week, as I just posted earlier in the group, I didn't really do many hype posts. Usually I try to give you guys like a 48-hour notice on the lesson, and this week I kind of didn't come to a decision till last minute. And sometimes I actually want to talk about really quickly how I come up with the lessons or the curriculum. And really easily, one of the things I bring a lot to these lessons is, guys, I still run a program called DM Setter Academy, where I have setters, representing some of my brands and offers, as well as for some other private clients and offers that I represent or work with. And a lot of the stuff that the DM setters ask questions for and ask for lessons are very, very applicable to what most of the people in the PDOCS group ask for or want to get better at, especially on the organic side of things. Now, PDOCS translates into a lot of stuff that can go into paid ads and paid marketing and paid campaigns. But most of us start organically. My expertise was always with organic, and I've transitioned into paid. And even as we've grown, I don't really do a lot on the paid side of things other than assess the ads and come up with a little bit of the creative, but very, very little on the ad side of things. What I do give to the ad team and the creative team are the best angles and hooks and the feedback I see working organically. So we'll have ads running, right? And let's just say on average we're booking about 18 calls per day. We'll all go in and book an additional 3 or 4 organically, or my setter team will, and I'll take away the angles and the hooks and the knowledge gaps that we're using organically, feed that back to the ads team, and they'll go create new creative based off of that. So again, that all comes back to opening up that feedback loop, validating messaging, and then seeing what works at scale, and making data-driven decisions. Hey, when I send this message out, I get a positive reply every time and people are interested, right? So when we see that, we're going to go more that route. So today's lesson about messenger and messaging, I should say, and messenger specifically, we'll talk about messaging in Facebook Messenger, but really about mastering that aspect. And again, why I brought this lesson forward is, number one, this is something still vastly applicable to how I'm getting results, how my setters get results. Number two, something they asked me for earlier this week was, Ray, I'd like more training on how to get more like you in terms of being relatable and non-salesy in my messaging, and things we talk about, and how do you come off that way. So those are some of the things that are going to be covered in today's lesson. And again, a lot of times that's how I come up with topics. Otherwise, I come back and look at what were some of the most engaging videos and live streams. Which ones got the most comments in the past 2 years? Which ones did I reproduce or put replays on YouTube and they got better engagement? So usually I like to make data-driven decisions based on questions I'm seeing, based on what is still working in the market, based on what I'm seeing from my internal team, and based on feedback I get from the actual views and people that consume content in this space, where I get the most positive comments, views, all that stuff, right? So as we're going to talk about today, messenger mastery, and I'm going to break this down threefold. Now, I've done a full hour-long workshop on just this document and going a little more in depth than I am today, for 2 reasons. Number one, today isn't an hour long, and number two, I want to cover and go through some more stuff that I've really never given away outside of people who bought our recent paid messaging mastery challenge that we ran last summer, which we still actually have, and we actually have discounted. I'll talk about that, but I'm not here to pitch and sell you guys. But let's start with number one, skills versus systems, which is a big part of messenger. Number one, I need the skills. Then which of these skills can be transitioned into systems, right? A lot of people think I can't replace myself in messenger because I can't replace exactly how I operate. I struggle with that probably as much as anybody. I haven't been able to totally replace myself with somebody that can do it as good as me, and I really don't expect to. But if I can replace it with people that can pick up and learn and do it at 80% of my capabilities, and I can outsource that and get multiple people doing it, I'm going to get better results, right? So it goes on to say, letter A, strategy is probably the most crucial, not probably, strategy is the most crucial aspect and the X factor. And by that, what do I mean about strategy? There's a little difference from strategy and approach, number one. So really kind of isolate and identify and separate the two. An approach is little I wouldn't say little, but approaches are aspects or components within an overall strategy. I think that's the better way to phrase it. And my basic objective is, again, it might be a little different, warm to cold, inbound to outbound, but let's just say outbound cold DMing and cold prospecting, because that's what I think people focus on most frequently. Now, my two objectives when I'm doing those types of messages and that type of outreach is really, number one, the initial objective is to create a little awareness and an introduction, and get rapport. And number two is to educate and build authority. So those are probably the two biggest objectives within my strategy. So now that I know those are my objectives, my strategy is all around awareness, engagement, and then education in that order. Awareness and engagement can kind of go hand in hand. You can put one before the other. You might need engagement and then awareness, right? However you want to word that. I think they kind of go hand in hand and doesn't really matter. And then the education comes in, and we'll talk about that more when we get to the point of recommendations of, everything we do in this messenger process goes through our eco framework that you've heard me talk about for years and so frequently. And last week's live stream, I covered engage, assess, assign, call to action, and obligation, right? So we're going to really talk about, and what I just went through was kind of what I'm talking about with these objectives is the engage, obviously, and then assessing and assigning is where we get into this approach, right? So again, I don't want to spend forever on each one of these. I kind of want to zip through them. My last workshop, where I went more in depth, let me know if you guys want that, or I'll try to drop the link here in the description if you want to go back through that in more depth. How to, or what skills and concepts do I need to comprehend? So, going back into what I said about kind of how I picked this week's topic and some of the feedback I got from my DM setter team, what I would say number one is how to just be relational. And the best way to do that is just think about having this DM conversation. Try to be in the same tonality and phrasing, generally speaking. Again, there's going to be outliers and I'll specify, but generally speaking, phrase this as if you're having a conversation sitting across the couch with your buddy watching the game, right? Just be relaxed, be yourself. And again, where I say there's subtle differences is sure, different platforms. I'm talking more on Facebook Messenger here, and Facebook is a much more direct to consumer than B2B type of platform, and much more relational. Whereas LinkedIn, you might be able to start right in with your offer message to create interest. You're going to probably operate, and your copy or your verbiage and your messaging is probably going to be a bit more professional in tone, as opposed to Facebook, a little more relational and laid back. So again, subtle nuances and intricacies and changes to each platform, but number one skill is just how to be me, how to be relational, and don't overthink your messages. Now, number two, what I would say right off the bat that a lot of people don't do in a very simple exercise for crafting messaging, especially initial outreach messaging. Now, you guys know I have a training about my direct approach, how I target these people with what I call my sniper approach, and then how I do my cold voice note outreach messaging, and I have a whole training on that. But what I'm really diving into here is when you're sending that first message, whether you're using voice notes or not, voice notes, again, would be applicable. This is easier to say if I'm doing talk to text or typing it. But before I ever send an initial outreach message, I always want to read it back and say, hey, if somebody sent that to me, would I respond? Is it engaging? Would I respond with, I always like to say, one of the big other skills that go into this is let's ask or create a message of purpose or substance, purpose, yes, to elicit a response of substance. So not just a yes or no, not just a 5 years I've been doing this, right? That kind of goes into what I talk about in most of my questions. Once I kind of dive into that icebreaker in the initial message or two, and we transition more into, say problem, solution, expertise type conversations, what I'm really trying to do there is just dig into, as we always say, I don't ever phrase it like this, where are you at, where are you trying to get to, and what's been the biggest hurdle? And the best way I find that to do that based on that concept I just said with, asking or phrasing your message with a specific purpose to elicit a reply of substance is using a lot of two-part questions. So once I get into that, good examples is, okay, great, man. So you're a copywriter? Curious, how long have you been doing that, and how many clients are you currently working with? That's going to get a response of not just 5 years, right? I've been doing this 5 years, right? Hey, Ray, I've been a copywriter about 5 years, and I've been working with private clients for about 3 years. I currently have about 6 clients, right? Great, you currently have about 6 clients. Just out of curiosity, how many would you like to be working with? Or maybe more importantly, how many can you actually handle and fulfill at a time, out of curiosity? Well, Ray, I'm currently working with 6. Ideally, with kind of my fulfillment and what I have available, I would like to double that customer base. I could easily take on and work with 12 right now. Great. So you'd love to get from 6 to 12 clients, Mr. Prospect. Let me just ask you, what do you think has been the biggest hurdle or roadblock from getting to 6 to 12? Or maybe why aren't we there yet, right? So all two-part questions, all kind of non-intrusive, just trying to get more information. And why I'm asking if they ever butt in and say, well, Ray, feels like you're asking a lot of questions. Yeah, man, I've just spoken with a lot of copywriters in your space. Pretty sure I have some great free resources that can help you get to that 12 clients. I was just trying to figure out a little more so I can give you the most applicable and best suggestions, recommendations, and ultimately resources. So if that's cool with you, do you mind if I ask you like 2 more questions? If not, no big deal, man. So again, you put their apprehension or their sales resistance at ease. Again, I'm just flowing back into a conversation. I've worked with a lot of copywriters. I've spoken with a lot. I've seen where they're at in their journey and where they want to be. I think I have some insight and advice that would help. That's all, man. There's nothing more to that conversation than that. So again, those are all aspects that come into like the basic thought process. And if you go back through this, and what I just talked about under B here, what skills or concepts do I need to comprehend? And the 3 main things I really just covered, I can damn near guarantee you any other DM setter training or outreach program or scripts will not cover all 3 of those. Most won't cover one or more than one of them, or even one of them. But they won't tell you that those are the most important things, and they won't really go through some examples or verbiage on how to do it. So again, very quickly, just kind of off the top of my head, I wanted to run through that. Now again, skills into systems, a big aspect of that and turning things into system is when and how to delegate and outsource. And what I always say is when you become more than competent, very proficient at a specific thing, you have it down and you've built out a repeatable process that you can then teach to others, that's the best time to delegate and outsource. So if you're a solopreneur, let's say you're that copywriter, you have 6 clients, your current acquisition and outreach process is just doing content and posting and following up in Messenger yourself. Well, until you get very good at navigating these conversations, getting a high, number 1, reply and engagement and intrigue or response rate, right? And then number 2, a good percentage of those quality people actually turning into a quality booked appointment. Once you have a system down to do that and you put on rinse and repeat, you can then build that into an SOP and teach it to somebody else and begin to delegate. There's a million different examples I can give, but it's really when you become proficient, or you have, maybe you don't always have to be proficient. Maybe you hired somebody else, and again, this wouldn't be as much for the solo guy, but you might hire somebody that can also, you might have a copywriter and you want him to train your internal team on the SOP so you can start to take back the guy you hired and build an internal team. We do that for a lot of aspects of the business. We might hire an ad agency temporarily, and eventually we want to learn that skill set or hire the right person or train the right person on that SOP to take that back in-house, right? So those are the initial things I think about when I get into how to delegate, outsource, etc. And again, really quickly, don't know if we have many people watching. Definitely didn't give this one much promotion. I'm going to go check the comments. But as I say here, guys, if anyone's watching live, pardon me, drop a comment down below about, anything you're taking away from this, any questions you have, anything you want me to cover in more depth, anything you may or may not, agree with or seen work in your personal business. Always love to hear your guys' feedback and experiences, because I kind of know through my own experience of what I see with my teams and data, what I'm talking about works, but I like to hear other cases. Matter of fact, I'll try to go into the conversation. I will go into the conversation. Let me just put a note here with some of the wins and some of the stuff my DM setters have been doing, and some of the appointments that are booking in that thread. But yeah, let's finish this document really quickly. So frameworks and how to replicate for scaled success. So basically, I kind of talked about this a little above, right, especially on that last one. But it's to create SOPs by creating resources, scripts, outlines, docs, etc., tutorials. Maybe you're using, a software like Trello or ClickUp or Notion to make team portals and to build out SOPs and best practices. But what I like to tell people early on, and this is something that I learned and really doubled down on quickly, which made a big difference for me, but save and replicate and do, and I should say track everything that you're doing and start to publish it as well. First track it, but then start to publish it. So be taking screenshots of your conversations, your posts, your transitional messaging, the stuff that's working. All of that stuff becomes proof of concept, and that's the best stuff. I've created all kinds of great SOPs, but when I don't put in real world examples or screenshots or, tutorials going over the actual flow of the conversation and showing, people have trouble picking up on it. Not me personally, but about 80% of people I teach and train, they're like, Ray, this all makes sense, but until I actually see it and see live examples, I want to see that post you did. I want to see how you transition the message. I want to see how that DM conversation flowed from first message to booking. So every time you guys do that properly, take a screenshot to go make a video, whatever. It only takes a second. So that's how to start creating your best stuff. And everything you see working, again, track it, take a record of it, and then turn it into an SOP. Whether whatever, you don't need fancy softwares. Whether you have a portal to create it, you can just do it in a regular Google Drive folder, whatever. You don't have to get fancy. And then how to delegate and outsource, pros versus cons. The biggest one I hear with business owners is pros versus cons is, I think one is kind of like a power thing to an extent. Like they feel like nobody can do this aspect of the business as good as them. And that might be right in certain cases. Where it should only be true is within the fulfillment. Nobody should be as good as you at being the expert of your business. If you're the copywriter, you're probably not going to replace yourself immediately in the main copywriting role. But and maybe you can, right, with all the advancements. That might not be the best example, but in certain things, like I can't replace myself in my expertise in my sales training. People haven't had the amount of reps, haven't had the amount of training, haven't taught the amount of hours that I've taught. It's hard to just go replace myself in certain areas. I know I can do it, so you got to see where the value in that is. But a lot of people almost have like this, if I'm going to outsource it, nobody's going to do it quite as good as me. Specifically, I hear a lot of business owners with that, with the sales of their business. Now, number one, nobody should be as passionate or be as knowledgeable about your product. And I'd like to say nobody should be as good at selling your own product and services yourself, but I found that's not true. Most business owners, when they step aside and give a professional rep a proven system and the right product knowledge and the right framework or script, they're usually going to close at a higher percentage. And then the business owner, because what business owners do when they take sales calls, and I've listened to dozens and dozens, if not hundreds of these from business owners, they don't remove their business owner hat and put on their sales rep hat when they get on that call. They still end up coaching. They end up being over knowledgeable. And when you go too much into the weeds or the features or the deliverables of your program and too deep, you actually lose people. Less is more in many cases, and being clear and concise over clever and confusing all day. And a lot of business owners don't realize that they're doing that when they pitch or sell their products. So that's a great example where they feel like nobody's going to sell my product as good as me. And they should feel that way. Nobody's going to have the passion or the knowledge. It doesn't mean they're not going to be better at actual sales. They're not going to be able to step outside of that business owner role and just sit down as a sales rep and really give the prospect the information they need to make an educated decision that's going to better their life, their business, whatever the solution or result they're looking for, right? So those are a lot of the pros versus cons. A lot of the pros versus cons also come down to time, right? So I'm going to pay somebody or a software or an automation or an actual employee, a VA, to do something that I feel like is more redundant and remedial and is not like taking my highest effort or my highest level. Something I can kind of replace myself in with anybody with average competency or knowledge within this space, this subject matter, right? So, and depending on where you're at in your business, is it better for me right now to invest my time and do this stuff myself, or do I have a little capital? And is it better to have a little capital right now and pay? So it really depends on where you're at and what you have, and that's the pro versus con. It's the time versus money thing. There's certain times, and I do this, I have over 20 team members now in Audience Lab. The way I look at it is anything I don't really enjoy is not, again, my real level of expertise. I can do it, but it doesn't fire me up. And there's people that probably either enjoy it or do it better. That's what I look for to outsource. A lot of the stuff in the tech and the back end and the coding and the dev, I don't do any of that stuff within Audience Lab. And even with like payroll, taxes, accounting, like we have other department members and CFOs for that. Like I stay within what I am really good at, what I enjoy, and where I can deliver the best value and bring the most value to my organization, right? So those are some of the things I think about. Conversation flow. Again, sequential order, recap, initial outreach throughout the call, booking and or other potential CTAs. So again, that's a little vague there because I didn't go through the whole lesson as well as I did in the last one. That's why that's not making sense. But the recap outreach through initial outreach through call booking means exactly what I was talking about. And other CTAs mean I don't always go for the call booking. Sometimes the call to action is my lead magnet because I need to educate more and get them more familiar with the product the problem I solve, the solution I offer, the pain points in my industry. I know they need a little more knowledge and intrigue before I want to take them to the call. Sometimes my booking funnel, and I'll try to show you an example if I have time, is to send people into my free group, and then we have a funnel and a booking process through that. But we want them to get some value, to get in the community, to see some more content before we go in. So that's some of the other calls to action. And I know I'm doing this reverse, but I was just getting that one out of the way because that's the basic one that's very easy. And what I said, recap initial outreach through call booking. So and that's more for when we're getting ready to delegate, right? We should have a recap of your entire conversation, not just show like your reps, hey, this is the final screenshot where I booked him in, which I do in certain cases. It makes sense, and I'll make that make sense. But when you're building out a whole SOP and a proof of concept and examples or samples, you got to show them, hey, this initial outreach was through this post and I reached out this way. This was a cold DM and this is how I reached out, in a cold contact. And I'll try to run through some of those, which ties right into the next one, right? Big differences between warm and cold approaches. And that's exactly what it is. A warm prospect is anybody that I have a prior reference point. I either talk to them first. Prior reference point could just be they commented on my post saying, hey, Ray, that was brilliant. I'd love to hear more about that, right? Then I'm going to shoot them a friend request. Then I'm going to do some outreach. I'll probably screenshot their comment and be like, hey, Joe, you commented on my post here and said you wanted some more information. I'd be happy to elaborate. Can you go a little more specific about what you'd like to know, right? And then he'll be like, oh, I'd like to know about this sales process or this, whatever it is, right? So get more specific. It could just be in a transition. So somebody already posts, somebody already commented, and then I came back and said, yeah, I've seen people struggle with that before. Hey, I've actually had great experience with this and helped dozens of clients overcome that. Is it cool if I reach out to you and weigh in on this and give you some insight? Right? And once I say, yeah, in that thread, I'm going to reply, cool, I shot you a DM. Rather than blowing up this thread with long messages, I'll just DM you privately. Cool. Then they accept. I go into the DMs and right away, hey man, you said you wanted some insight on struggling with Facebook ads, audience integration, whatever it was. Yeah, Ray, I did. Cool. Can you tell me a little more specifically? I mean, your message I understood and I can give you a general answer, but is there anything more specific you'd like me to know for context before I give you some recommendations or some thoughts? Well, Ray, I'm spending X amount on ads and this is our conversion rate, and they'll give me some more numbers or details or whatever, right? So big differences. Cold, it's always going to be, and again, I have a whole training just on this, my cold DM voice note and outreach approach. Again, whether it's voice notes or you're doing a text, the approach doesn't change. I have better success with voice notes for a number of reasons, and I discovered in there. But some of my DM setters with accents or that are in other parts of the country or world or that aren't as established, their voice notes actually bring up a little more hesitancy and skepticism, and they have a little more success with my same verbiage and framework, but in more of a text format than voice notes. So again, either or, but when I'm reaching out to a prospect, it's all about them. So when I reach out and do a cold voice note, and actually let me play one for you real quick, one that I did recently. And then that will be the best way to just show you an example. Again, I have a whole nother training on this. I didn't have this queued up, so just bear with me 1 minute. I believe it won't take me long to find at all. So cool. Here's a cold voice note I did just a week ago. So again, this guy was a very intentional and structured new connection request. And then this is what I do in my voice note approach. Hey Joshua, how are you, my friend? Nice to make your acquaintance. Hey man, the reason I'm reaching out basically is because apparently we became connected here on Facebook sometime in the last handful of days, and rather than remain strangers like a bunch of people on this platform seem to do, I actually like to reach out and build a connection with everybody that kind of joins my network. So I'm not sure if I shot you a friend request, you me. I'm kind of always just growing my network, and I can't say I'm 100% sure how the Facebook algorithm works, Joshua, but it usually recommends or suggests people into my recommendations or whatever that are like-minded in terms of being critical thinkers, in terms of being just entrepreneurial based, thought leaders, and people just looking to do good things and make a better life for themselves. So anyhow, again, not sure if you kind of tick some of them boxes or how we became connected. Usually, again, Facebook recommends those type of people or people I'm in similar groups or networks with. But anyway, just wanted to drop you a line and get connected. Looking over your profile real quick, I like the term there. I got myself a pretty good beard going too, but the bearded bookkeeper, so I have a pretty good idea of what you do. I'm guessing you run bookkeeping services, but just curious a bit more about that. How long you've been doing that? You know, or do you already work with a good amount of clients? Would love to hear a bit more about you and look forward to seeing some of your content here, Joshua. Cool. So there's a cold voice note, and my basic strategy is, you notice I keep it all about them. I try to drop any apprehension or resistance about why they're reaching out. Hey man, I'm not really sure how the algorithm works. Facebook usually connects me with other people that are similar in terms of being entrepreneur, critical thinker, creative, right? People just looking to make a better life for themselves and hold themselves accountable, you know, to create change, right? It looks like you tick some of them boxes. Then I transition into, hey, it looks like you do this. I'd love to hear more about that and look forward to seeing some more of your content. So that's kind of the framework, right? I go in more and more depth. And just to give you, I'm not going to go through the whole thread, but that's my voice note. And generally by keeping it all about them, they come back and you know, ask me what I do. Now, in this case, if I remember right, and I'm going to play it for you, this guy had kind of been stalking me and my content for a little while, and he actually might have shot me a friend request, but I did the initial outreach. So let's just listen to the initial message I got back, and then I'll go on to my next thing.
Hey Raymond, thanks for sending me a message and actually reaching out. I think I actually added you a couple of weeks ago, and I think maybe I'd seen you in a group. I'm not exactly sure, and similar to what you had said, Facebook makes suggestions, and I had a Facebook account that was pretty active years ago, shut it down for a lot of different reasons, and have only recently started to try to rebuild my Facebook network. So I saw your profile come up and did a little profile stalking and saw just what you were doing and some of the things you were sharing. Thought it was interesting, so wanted to connect. So I've been in business for since 2016 with the Bearded Bookkeeper, and yeah, you know, I provide bookkeeping services really focused on just simplifying people's financial systems and processes, managing the day-to-day transactions, and really helping them understand, like, what are the numbers, what do the numbers mean, how does it help them, and how can they use that information to guide the business. So that's just a brief overview of what I do. I've been doing it, like I said, since 2016. I think one of the things I liked, I followed you for, is I see that you're kind of in the sales marketing area. I'm always learning more in that department to just improve how I'm going to the market and making offers and stuff. So I appreciate you reaching out. I tend to follow people and then not know how to engage and go. So I do appreciate you reaching out to me.
So you guys see there, right? He gave me a lot more information about what he does, tells me he's following me a little, and he sees I'm into marketing and sales, and he's always learning. You know, all those things are very good signs and very good ways to get in a conversation. He also said, you know, thanks for reaching out. I kind of don't know how to do outreach. So I remember in my next message, I was like, hey, Joshua, take this framework, how I just did this first message, step out of your comfort zone and just start sending them out, man. I was like, you seemed very responsive to my message, correct? So if you mimic this and did it to your people, why wouldn't they be receptive? He's like, oh my God, thanks for that, right? Sometimes it's just little things that we can do to give people tips and tricks. Ended up that conversation going on to him getting one of my lead magnets in my sales mastery masterclass, and him wanting more information about that, and then coming into some of my other communities and groups. So that was really good. Yeah, so just to make sure I have enough time, let me go back into Messenger, which I had open, and bring up a couple examples of, so let me go into first my setters community and just show you a couple things that I've been seeing here recently. And then I have a couple conversations I'll bring up and just show you like Messenger information. But as I went to show some of my setters the other day, so this is on Monday morning at about 10 a.m. if you guys can see where I'm hovering my mouse, anybody watching the screen. I went to show them how I booked in another one this morning. Book call right here, showed them the little thread when it got confirmed, yada, yada, yada. And I showed them how all weekend I had all these new friend requests coming to me every few minutes through this new strategy I was doing, which is, you know, great to be growing our network, getting more followers. I think I saw on my dashboard today. My followers in the last week alone went up by about 430% by this new strategy I did. So I was sharing it with my team. I went on to say, one of my setters here in this kind of big message in blue, congratulations to Dino for implementing my methods. In about 4 days last week of implementing and tracking KPIs, he was able to get into 5 to 6 quality conversations with ideal prospects for his business. Keep it up, my man. So I like to celebrate wins. As you can see, about 5 of the other setters, gave a heart emoji or clap or whatever. And the reason I did this in here is because Dino, this guy, the setter, messaged me in a voice note and told me, Ray, thank you. Last week was the first week I went to full implementation. He's like, through 4 days of KPIs, these were my numbers, these were my results. He's like, thanks. And then he goes back to say, thanks, Ray. It's honestly phenomenal, right? So again, I could go and show you up. There's dozens and dozens more of like booked call messages, me sharing some results, new content for my team. This is a full call flow of a book message. I think I might have covered this last week. Again, I just wanted to touch on this quickly. Let me go bring up, let's say, another conversation. Why can't I find this? There it is. Let me just follow another one where I got in a booked call from an organic conversation. And I tried to just bring up a name that I remembered off the top of my head, but I knew this wasn't like a super recent one. So it's not one I just shared on like last week's, training or the week before. So cool. So he reaches out initially and says hello. Hey, Doug, nice to make your acquaintance. Yeah, you commented on one of our ads saying you tried to reach us 3 times, but no response. I'm trying to understand and troubleshoot what happened. Can you elaborate for a bit? And then I show him the screenshot. So I remember I sent him this connection request because he commented on one of our ads. I actually would have done the initial outreach, but as soon as I connected, he hit me up like super quick saying hello, right? So I showed him a screenshot of exactly yeah, I submitted a bunch of forms, never heard back. I'm looking for intent data to use for cold email and potentially ads for custom audience. So I went on to say, yeah, that's exactly what we do. Let me figure it out. What's your best email and how can we get this worked out for you? And he goes, if I filled out a form, I would be under one of these 2 emails. The B2B data would be more applicable to me. We target decision makers at recruiting firms who need help with lead gen primarily in the US. Yeah, we can get and provide that. Here's our most extensive tutorials and resources on exactly how to do that and how our platform works. He goes through them, comes back, thanks. What is the pricing structure? A subscription, we pay per list. I was like, options for both. Actually, we don't have pay per list. I think I was thinking individual product, which we had back then, or monthly pricing. But either way. All right, any availability for a 15-minute demo on Wednesday? So as I mentioned last week where I showed you like a prospect willing to pay for a sales call, again, these prospects are initiating the booking and the demo call in the process, which is great. When you do this right, and again, I'm not pushy, I'm not salesy, I'm just trying to find out what happened, give him some recommendations and suggestions, find out where the best use case is, and then just say, hey, here's some resources, options for both, right? He's already starting to ask buying questions. This is exactly a buying question, right? Pricing structure, how do we pay, yada, yada, yada. Options for both. Yeah, we have slots open on Wednesday. Send calendar. Cool. Let me put you with my most knowledgeable advisor, Mark. I'll send you his direct booking link. So I decided not to take this call, which I don't for most of. I like to give it to my reps. I'm a co-owner of the business. I don't take commissions. I don't like to take sales calls if I don't have to. I like to give them to my reps. They always come first. So boom, send him the link. He's booked in. Let me show you another example of I talked about organic and then taking people to your group maybe is your call to action and having that be your funnel. So let me show you one example of that type of conversation. Again, I was just taking some notes as I was kind of training and going through the earlier document. There's one more thing I wanted to cover that I know I'm not going to get to, so I'll probably do another lesson. I don't know if it'll be next week, two weeks next month, but I'll drop some more information. That was going to be a cool-ass thing, but there's no way I have time to go through it here. I really wasn't sure if I would. Come on. Now this is going slow. I just want to get to the top of the conversation so I can show you guys, again, what I just said, show the whole flow from initial outreach to booking. Now, this is a longer conversation because that wasn't all just to get booking, and you'll see that this guy became a client and a paid member, and then I obviously keep in contact with them. But this is the initial outreach message. So this guy joins the Facebook group, right? Once he joins, this is our process. So I take a screenshot of their membership request form. So really quickly, I have a 3-part questionnaire that people enter. Number 1, Required. Would you like to see exactly how this tech works for top brands and advertisers? Yes, I would. Drop your best email and we'll send you over some great training. And then lastly, are you currently doing at least 10K per month in MRR? You should be focusing 100% on outreach and not data science if you're still under 10K. This guy goes on to say he's over 10K. So he fits the criteria of our ideal client. I include that screenshot in the conversation, and then I send a voice note. Hey, Dwayne, welcome to our group of X, Y, and Z. Hey, you filled out this questionnaire saying you did want to see how this technology works for advertisers, and you're currently over 10K a month. Tell me a little more about what you're doing and what piqued your interest, right? So that was my initial voice note. Then he comes back. Currently, I'm transitioning into tech. Audience Lab piqued my interest. I'm looking to start a marketing agency for real estate agents and realtors. I previously had a pay-per-call lead agency that I am looking to rejuvenate. I was interested in using Audience Lab to target individuals in the real estate and financial industry. Oh snap! Yeah, you're spot on. Audience Lab can certainly be a huge benefit or factor if you're going that route of real estate agencies and such. Let me know if you want some more info or details regarding exactly what we do, and more importantly, how we do it. Yeah, I would love to know more about what you do and how you guys do what you do. I'll be going through your PDOCS guide shortly as well. So this guy was already in my PDOCS community, heard us or saw something about Audience Lab, joined that community. And came in. So here's our most extensive resource. Boom. These are the two videos, these two short videos I'd recommend you start with, and then this one if you decide to go into a third. Here's a good overview of what's covered in our core PDOCS program. I'm not sure which one's a better fit for you right now. If you're still at the point where you're starting this agency and not quite ready to run ads and you don't have a lot of clients to sell it to, basically I'm saying, hey, there's another program that can get you up to the point when you're ready. So basically, I'm looking to implement this particular agency. Okay, somebody was to help me craft the offer. Yeah, shoot it over. Offer creation is one of my primary. So he asked me if I'd look over his offer for him. Again, since many of you guys know, and this 100%, again, when you're talking to the right person, these conversations usually transition right into your expertise, your wheelhouse, right? Right into your skill set and the solution you offer. And usually these people are going through a problem you solve. So, hey, I've been, trying to create my offer. I'd love you to look it over. Yeah, I'll have a look at this today. Then I created a Loom going over it, how I pressure tested it. You guys might know for me, I call it the 4 P's of an offer: how it's packaged, positioned, priced, and perceived, the value to the marketplace. So I go through, pressure test it, found some big holes, made him a Loom. Basically showed him how I could help. And then he starts to ask, do individuals that get PDOCS get discount access to the licensing? And he's asking a lot more buying questions. Turned out he ended up joining my PDOCS program. We worked together, helped him craft his offer. This is obviously, okay, can we do that's him joining one of my live streams there. But we stayed in contact because of those initial messages, and he became a paid client. So there's some examples of different conversations, all going back to implementing what I was talking about here in this, Messenger Mastery Doc, using skill versus systems, the strategy, the objective, what skills and concepts, right? You saw all of there, relational, 2-part questions, keeping all about them, all those things I covered there. So again, hopefully this was really, really helpful. I know I only had about 17 people view it when I checked last time. Not a lot of viewers quite yet, so I'll probably get more questions or comments on the replay. But let me swing back in and check the group one more time, see if there was any comments or questions here. Nope, we had 21 views, but nobody had any comments or questions. So guys, again, watching this either here on Facebook or YouTube, drop a like below. Any comments, any questions, any resources I talked about that you want information about. And again, not here to pitch anybody, but we do have an awesome in-depth 5-day challenge master your messaging course, which was $74. So if you guys want more information about that, in the description, especially under YouTube, I'll drop the link. I'll go drop it here in the PDOCS group underneath this post if anyone wants to look on it. I think we only had about maybe 20 people, 25 join the live challenge when we did it, and now we have automated it into a quick little curriculum. You guys can go through in 5 days or less and totally revamp your messaging and go make some money for under $75. So I'll drop that below with some more contact information if you want to get a hold of me. Check out my free PDOCS group. If you're watching this on YouTube or anywhere else, you can access some of our content. So guys, hopefully this was excellent. Please, as I always say, pull out at least one aspect of this, if not more, that you can go tweak, implement, and move into your process, whether it's outbound, whether it's cold, whether it's warm, whether it's, outsource and delegating, whether it's building the SOPs, whether it's about being more relational. And just that phrase I said about talking to your prospects and your conversations, like you're sitting on a couch, having a beer, watching the game with your friend. Relational, laid back, and that's what's going to work. Awesome, guys. We'll see you on next week's episode. And again, hit me up if there's anything I can do or anything I can provide.